Alright, it's time to open up another box over here, and this time I'm going to build another kit from one of Ed Big Daddy Roth's collection. These were all of, real cars that he had built, and very popular as model kits ever since. And I've built a number of them. I think I should actually make a playlist just to, so you can just see the videos I built of these cars. But don't know much about this kit in particular. Some of his kits are a little tough to build, and mostly it comes to when putting on the decals over here, because he always had these intricate paint schemes and patterns and things like that. So let's check it out. I haven't seen too many videos where people build them online, so I don't know much about if there's any issues with this kit. Loaded with chrome. All right, so again, ooh, it's quite small, but let's take her out over here. Rubber tires, the loaded with chrome bag, and it is a lot of chrome over here. Looks not too bad. I don't see too much flash, which is always a problem with coming with chrome. So hopefully I can work with this. Let's see the decals. And again, these are the decals that you really have to wrap around some wicked curves. I did see one video where somebody was mentioning how you have to join basically this piece with that piece and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. The decals look okay, at least I hope so. And I do plan on trying to get these decals in. And again, it's a green paint scheme, so basically it's a lot of white, and because the decals give it the whatever, most of the green over here, it's basically a matter of just painting the seats, which people tend to make in green anyhow, or different variations. It's kind of like this is kind of like an aqua over here. So I'll try to get that as close as possible for the seats. I'm not sure what paints I have, and if I need to buy stuff or if I got to whip up something. So again, this is the Outlaw. Quite intricate in terms of number of pages for the build. So it looks like there's some sort of a statue, or not a statue, an award that goes along with the kit, and maybe some stanchions if you want to build like a perimeter around it, kind of a base. I don't know. Anyhow, we'll see what brings us in this kit, and hopefully I won't have any issues with the decals. All right, Houston, we have a little problem over here. As you can see, I started on the motor, and things were going good, parts fitting and things like that. But I noticed that I was missing two parts over here, the right heads on the block. And, I went through the parts and everything. One thing I should mention, that this was an open kit. And these, the sticker on the kit said, parts off the sprue. And these are not chrome parts. These are clear parts. And I went through the parts over and over again, making sure I don't have them. And those two parts are missing. So it's kind of strange that they're both of these. So I don't think it was like just one lost piece or anything like that. For whatever reason, the pieces aren't there. And I checked on the sprue just in case, and they're not, chrome parts, or mislabeled as, not being chrome. Anyhow, the good news is I do have two very, very similar parts. They actually come from this 55 Chevy Bel Air, and that kit I picked up was missing parts. It was actually, somebody was giving it away at a show, and I said I can make a real junk. I was looking for a body for just make a junk diorama, and I said that's perfect. I don't care about the missing parts. And so I went in there. Luckily, these parts were in there. They're a little slightly different, but close enough that they'll do. So I'll continue with that, but the other thing I wanted to mention was the paint. So again, I wanted to try to get the blue-green that is the color of the decals, and kind of like this over here. So I took this color wheel, and by mixing this and this, I can get to something like this. So I went, just mixed these two acrylics, and sure enough, I got a nice, pretty close match. This is already thinned down because I put it in the airbrush, so I don't know what I'm going to do with the seats. Either I whip up another batch, because the seats, I can't use the airbrush. I don't want to mask it all off. I'm thinking of just doing a hand painting on those seats, those inner seats over here that has to match the cushions, basically, that I want to try to match that color. So again, little problems. I think I'm okay. We'll continue with the build as is and see if there are any other missing pieces. Hopefully not. Just a quick update on the build over here. As you can see, I've built the motor now. I did not put in those replacement parts from the Bel Air there. They were a little bit bigger than the original parts that were supposed to be with the kit, and I was kind of worried that it may be a problem later on. I tried to file them down a bit, but I figured either this thing is going to be a little too big or it's going to be too small if I don't use them at all, and I just said I'm not going to use them. I'm going to put these valve covers right on top. And it should be okay. It's not, it's not perfect, but it should be good enough. And so after I did that, I started priming all the non-chrome parts. Now this is a white, plastic, obviously from the kit, the styrene, and I want to have a white paint later on. And I had some white primer. And I didn't want to put white primer on top of white because you might miss parts, pieces where you're not shooting it right, missing it. And so what I did is I added a few drops of green primer, because they were both stylin res, to the white, just so that it's off-white. And that way I could really see and make sure I primed, everything accordingly and not miss any spots. So that worked really well. I'm happy with that. And then I want to talk about this little piece over here. Now, the way this is supposed to go is you glue these two together, and at the same time you put this piece in, because you can't put it in afterwards. But I thought, I looked at it closely and I said, I think I can, gouge out some of the plastic here, because this is going to be on the bottom anyhow, enough so that later on I could take this piece and slide it in. So I did a little test where I just taped it together before gluing it and made sure that I can do that, which I can right now. So I can add this. Now I can paint it as one piece and glue that piece in later. And I got rid of this really ugly seam over here. And it's kind of like a wheel well, but because it's such an open car, you'd see that seam for sure. So that's came out really, really nice. I did find some extra pieces that didn't, I went through this whole instruction sheet, over and over again saying, where are these pieces? And they don't seem to be part of this kit. So I kept them just in case I missed it after all of that stuff. But I think I've got all the other parts now, at least the non-chrome parts. I've verified them through the instructions. So the last thing I want to talk about is actually the painting itself. This car seems to be, a lot of people when they build it, it's kind of like an off-white. I see it like a yellow tinge, almost like it's aged plexiglass, which of course this body is a plexiglass body. But I went online and there's the LA Peterson Automotive Museum. I'll put a link in my notes where you can actually see pictures of this car today. And it is, pure white. It doesn't look aged at all. So I'm gonna try to look, have that look, and I'm gonna try this Pearl Aztec, Testors Aztec Pearl, which is an acrylic paint. I've never used these before. Our local hobby shop had them on sale, so I grabbed a few, and other people seem to have good success with these. So I'm going to be trying this for the first time. I should be able to shoot this right out of the airbrush without thinning it, but I'll see when I try. So that's the plan so far. All right, I just want to add a quick note about this Testors Aztec paint. The good news, came out of the airbrush beautifully, no thinning, nice and smooth, a nice finish. You can see a nice pearl, exactly what I'd hoped for, except for one little issue. It's a little bit translucent. As you can see, again, I had just a little bit of green in my white primer, so there's a little green tinge here. And I've shot this, twice now, and you can still see some of that green shine through. So it's translucent to the point where, you know, close, very close where I was going to leave it, but I can see it. And again, after two coats, so I know that this is going to be translucent no matter what. So, you know, I don't want to reprime everything in white so that I can use this stuff, although it seems to be great. I think what I'm just going to do is go with the Tamiya white and leave it at that for this time. And keep in mind that these paints are slightly translucent. Okay, I wanted to talk about a few things over here. First of all, I want to talk a bit about the kit itself, the Outlaw. Again, it's a very popular kit, being an Ed Roth kit, and you know, been repot many times. But there's also variants that you can buy ready-made out of the box. One of them is the Outlaw and the Robin Hood Fink, and basically it's the same car, you know, all the pieces of the car, but there are modifications. Specifically, like the wheels are all, you know, deformed and spread out and wacky looking, and it comes with this giant figure that sits in the car, which is, you know, some weird looking figure. And the reason I mention this is I want to mention another YouTuber, Tommy Moore at Scale Plastic Hobbies. I'll put the link in my notes. And what he's done is made a few of these Outlaws. He's made, you know, the traditional Outlaw, just as I am over here. And he's taken that Robin Hood Fink, and what he did is another mod to that where he took out the figure and he put a Danny Zuko giant head. Anyhow, it's really a great build, and Tommy's made many incredible builds. He's a great builder and innovative, and he's done a lot of like scratch building or mods of his own. And another one I think you should see is something called a surfing bird, where he basically scratch built this kit that looks amazing. I mean, I as I mentioned in the comments, replying to him saying I wish this was a kit. He's a really it was a fantastic build. You got to see it. Anyhow, I'll put all those links in my notes so you can check out that stuff, which I do recommend. Now about my build itself, I mentioned earlier on this full color, which was the right color, but it was a metallic, and so I can't use that. But as it so happens, when I went back to those museum pictures of the kit, you know, the real car itself, the steering wheel does have metallic, you know, that blue-green aqua color on the steering wheel. And basically, this is like a perfect match. So when I used it, I was so happy with this. It is, you know, as close to the original steering wheel itself. So that worked out really well. The cushions, seats, which I had to hand paint, which, you know, I dreaded because I am not a really good freehand painter. But, you know, I said, let me do my best over here. And I took a stab, again, mixing the blue over here, the Folk Art Brilliant Ultramarine and the Decor Art Christmas Green, and you know, a little bit of white in there to get that color, and I painted it on, and it looked great. And then afterwards, what I did is I kept some of that paint, and I added a little more white to it just so I can lighten it, and then I dry brushed that so you can really see the seat, you know, the cushion effect, and it looks, you know, I'm really happy with it. Let's put it that way. It's not perfect, but I'm really happy. I was really worried I was going to screw that up with all those curves and, you know, ups and downs and bumps and everything. So happy with that. I still have to paint in the seat belts, but so far so good on that front. Next thing I want to talk about the panel lines, or basically the dash. So there were no decals for the dash, which was at first I was, you know, not too happy about that because there's so many dashes and they're so small. But then I realized they're really clean, crisp, raised gauges. And I said, let me try some panel line accent. If I could drop it in there, and basically it'll seep into the sides, and the gauges and numbers and things like that will still pop out. And I'm really happy with that. I don't know if you can see that in the video. I'll try to take some close-up shots. Again, it's not perfect, but a lot better than anything I can paint by hand. So I'm really happy with that. I'm going to have to get some more panel line accents, some grays and browns and things like that, so I have a variation of it. I mentioned it in my last model kit too, where a little lighter, something lighter than black would have helped. So I only had the black, so I went with the black. But in the car itself, they are mostly black, and then I just had to do a little few buttons over here in silver. So that worked out. Now the decals. As you can see, I've cut them out over here. I did apply decal film because again, I'm worried that they're gonna crack on me. Being older, an older kit, and because they're so intricate, where I'm gonna have to do a lot of go over a lot of curves and bending it. I said I'll put the decal film right away, but it's something that you can't wait till the very end because there's this piece as an example where I'm gonna have to put the decals now because other parts will go over that and it'll cover that this piece over here and some bars and things like that. So I'm at that point where I usually wait till the end for the decals, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. And also I might be putting the decals before I put the bucket in here like that because I'll have a little more room and a little less distractions. And if I worst comes to worst, if I have to repaint it, then the other things are not glued. So hopefully these decals will work. They're really daunting. There's so many intricate curves. Like one goes up here and through that curve down here, meets up here, but then it has to meet up with a different decal, exactly on the spot. And again, if you look at Tommy's video, you'll see how he tried, to get those just right. The only other thing I want to mention was that earlier on as I was going through the instructions, I said that there's supposed to be a little trophy and some stanchions that you put around the car. Those are not in my kit, so one of the things, again, missing. I don't know if they weren't in the kit or whoever had the kit before. Again, with that thing where it says it was, open off sprue. So, but I'm not worried about that. If worst comes to worst, I can make my own, but I don't think I'll even bother. This kit is challenging enough as it is. But so far, everything's working out okay. All right, so having built the Beatnik Bandit and the Outlaw now, I can say that unequivocally that Ed Roth was a sadist in terms of designing these intricate paint schemes. The decals had some success with the decals, but there were problem areas. Again, the ones that I was worried about over here. And on this side here was, pretty much a disaster. I could not, it cracked. It bled through from one to the other as you put one on top of the other, and it's lousy. So a few things. Don't even try to put on these decals without microset and microsol. There's a lot of bending, so you're gonna need to put the microsol, and you have to know how to put the microsol with a brush to slowly ease in those parts to where they're supposed to go. So you put a little microsol one direction, then the other, and then the other, and then slowly they'll bend into shape. But right now, I might have a backup plan, and that's because I did something. I did it for one reason, but it might help me out for another reason. What I did was I knew this piece over here that goes down to the back over here and then folds over here. That's was going to be a lot of folding and bending, and it also had this piece that went over the top. And what I decided to do is that I can cut those off, and it'll be easy to put them back later, separately and line them up. So I cut those pieces off. And what I might be able to do now, because that's not that important, it's right at the top over here, nobody will notice that they're missing, but I may be able to use these pieces now to salvage these areas over here by basically putting them on top here just to get another single green line. And what I was thinking of doing here to get rid of this ugliness is just taking an airbrush and using some white to gently mist it so that it becomes kind of like that white up here, although I don't know what I'm going to do really about the blue-green areas. So I don't know, I just made like white it all out, and if I can blend it in nicely, then I can just put the stripe or even not put the stripe at all. I'll have to see what I do there. A few things I've done is, again, a lot of progress on the chassis. Again, this is a very finicky chassis. Take your time. The parts line up closely, but not exact. So you'll always be like a little short on one end or the other. So you'll have to do a lot of filing, like especially where you have glue points that are, in a circle where you open up those areas so that they fit. But it's looking nice. I'm happy with it. Just a few more parts there. I want to mention that this kit does not come with a clear plastic windshield. that you have to put in the frame. What they do is they give you this acetate, which is a very crisp acetate and very rigid but thin. And then you take the instruction sheet and you've got to cut it out yourself. So what I did is I didn't want to cut out my instructions proper. I just went on Scalemates. They have the instructions there. Made sure it was the same size as mine and printed it out and used that as a cutting template. And first I cut it out as a rectangle. And because this is such a rigid plastic acetate over here, you can just file that off later on to get the contour you need on the two corners. And then there's like kind of a notch for the rear view mirror, and you got to just go to, if you have a rounded file, you can just slowly file that off to make that notch. So I think I'm okay there. I added some clear yellow to the chromed headlights because, again, there's so much chrome on this kit that I just wanted a little color. So I did the red lights in the back, which I think most people do anyhow, but then I did also yellow with clear yellow Tamiya paint to get some yellow headlights. And the last thing I did was I just made a little custom license plate. I just basically made kind of a logo and then print out a sheet with a bunch of them and a bunch of sizes so I can use them later on for other cars as well, different sizes. So hopefully I can recover from this disaster area. Okay, I'm calling this one done over here. So a few things to talk about. First of all, I did end up just, misting some white in those areas for the decals where they kind of got messed up. And it's okay. It's not the greatest, but it still looks better than what it did before. I did not use those pieces. As you can see, I put the pieces over at the top, the ones that I had cut out, thinking I could salvage them to put the lines over here. And the reason was this, on this side over here, is kind of straight. I think I could have gotten away with putting that line over there and then making it look closer to what it should have. But on this side over here, there's quite a big disjoint in the direction of that line and that line. So I said it's better not to even try. I think it looks, for what it's worth, it looks better this way than to try to make it even worse by trying to put those decals. So again, I'm not happy with that fact the decals got messed up there, but overall I can't complain either because there was a lot of the decals that went okay. I want to talk about the shift knob now. They give you this weird a saber handle as part of the shift knob, and you put that on fairly early on in the instructions on the first page. Okay, that's the saber shift gear. But two problems. Number one, when I look at the pictures from the museum piece, the real car, it's not there. And that's supposed to go through the floorboards as you're putting the rest of the car together. Because, again, they tell you to glue that piece fairly early on onto the motor. And it just won't fit into the hole, the recess for that. And I looked at the pictures online, and it's basically a ball shift handle that kind of looks like wood. So I just made my own with some metal and some sprue glue that I rolled up into a ball and put it at the tip of the rod over there. So that was the fix there. And then the last, as it so happens, it's always the last piece that gives you a problem. These rods that hold up the windshield. The instructions are very ambiguous as to where to glue them, if there are glue points at all. As a matter of fact, it just kind of says this goes under here, and over here you really can't see a glue point. And then I looked at the size, the length of the rods, and again referencing the real car. And the real car, these rods should go all the way between the frontmost pipe and the second pipe, whereas there's no way that line would have reached there. And I'm wondering if one of the issues I had is also because of the missing pieces, the blockheads that I had on the car. Remember, I was missing two, and I just put these right over on top of that, and basically just didn't use those pieces that were missing. And I wonder if that would have given me a little more clearance over here, but again, it wouldn't have increased the length. Anyhow, I did the best I could. I just glued them where I could, as close to the body, and making sure that they were at least symmetrical. And again, just enough room to put the horn in over there. So again, I like the car, you know, how it turned out, and many things worked out really well. Oh, I should also say I'm not crazy about having this, you know, the flex acetate for the windshield. It just doesn't look right to me. I wish it was just a plastic piece, and I wish this piece itself was molded a lot better. There was a lot of flash and it's chrome. You know, I didn't feel like stripping it all off, sanding it down, and then re-chroming it just for that one piece. So I said I'll just use what I have. But again, other than that, I like this model. Believe it or not, it presented a lot of challenge. Oh, gluing these things are a challenge over here too, to get them just right. They kind of fit, they kind of don't fit. So you do have to, tweak it a bit and move shiftings around to get these pipes in line over here. But I like the car. I like the way I'm happy with what I've done, although I'm not completely satisfied. And to be honest, I'd like to take another tackle of, this car another day, where I have a little more time. And now that I know a few things about the build, which I would change right off the bat. First of all, these decals, again, I had some issues. I think I would have had less issues if I actually lowered them a bit. You can see there's quite a gap over here. And, thinking through of where the overlaps I had over here, I think if I put them a little bit lower, it would have been better. But again, if I had to redo it, I would do it that way with these decals. Again, I gave it a quick coat of Future to make them shine. But again, there's a few little spots that I could touch up with paint. And a few other areas, it's not the greatest. Like there's a slight misalignment over here, which is completely my fault. But again, you're wrapping that big piece, so you don't have much play when you're coming down unless you've gotten it right off the beginning. So nice car. I've got one more Ed Roth car. It's the Mysterian, another bubble car. So I've done the two other bubble cars. Got one left, and again, it's a nice kit. Oh, I just knocked that off there. I will have to tweak that and put some glue there. And it's a really a cool looking car. What can I say? But it does present its challenges to anybody building the model kit. Anyhow, I'll take a few more glamour shots and get working on another model very, very soon. Hopefully I can squeeze in one more before the end of the year, and I think I know what I'm going to build. Thanks for watching.